What's up, and welcome back to a special edition of Propels Talk presented to you by Boot Crew Media and Company Burger, located at 4600 Ferret Street. Today we have on the digital content producer of Fox 8 New Orleans, Jesse Brooks. Jesse, thanks for joining the show. How are you today?
I'm good, Justin. Little tired, a little gray outside, but I got some coffee getting me through. And how are you doing today?
Good. That fog is serious in New Orleans.
I'm
It's still
so
like
sick of the
70
fog,
degrees.
man.
It's yeah, I mean, it's still so hot, which kind of sucks for Christmas time. We kind of want it to be a
Yeah.
little cold and things like that. No, but before we dive into the Zion situation, Jesse, I just want to tell me a little bit about your background and what you do.
Yeah, I probably have one of the weirdest Twitter accounts out there. There's like you'll go in there and you'll see like information about crime and uh
Right.
sports, and then like I'm moonlighting on the weekends as a songwriter and trying to sell a future album. And so it's, I understand it's really weird and hard to navigate that. And I think like at one time I probably wanted to be Anthony Bourdain, so there's a little
Sure.
little touch of culture coverage on there as well. I know a lot of people try to break their accounts up, but that's just too much work for me.
Sure.
I'm not gonna do that. I tell people, like ride with some stuff that you're not used to. Maybe you'll find out you're interested in it. Whatever. We'll see what happens. But I think I have like a interesting audience because of that kind of. Anyway, I think I've had a really weird background getting to where I am. I've had a
Sure.
lot of different hats as far as being in the professional media industry. Started from probably the smallest level that you could be on to, I mean, so now I'm working for a top 50 market in America, which is, the city of New Orleans. So it's been a wide journey and a lot of different jobs
Sure.
that have different duties. And so I've gotten to kind of see different aspects of how media works on different levels. And um, the current job that I have is kind of odd. As a digital content producer, like sometimes we're writing reports, sometimes we're interpreting reports, we're assisting the reporters that are out on the field. We manage a website, we manage social media. It's just a lot of different things wrapped up in one. I know, like, because I have past experience as a reporter, I kind of assist. I assist our TV broadcast and
Mhm.
helping bring stories to the table and helping them write and things like that. So I guess this current job I'm working is kind of perfect for me because I've done a hodgepodge of different things in the past on smaller levels. So I
Mhm.
get to do a little bit of everything where I'm at now. In the past, I spent time as a beat reporter, mostly high school sports. I did a little bit of coverage for the Pels during that time. Basically, my former newspaper publications were gracious enough to let me do that Pels coverage just so I can get out there on my own and
Right.
get get my credentials up, and really thankful that they allowed me to do that because that probably helped get me on the path of getting into the New Orleans market.
Yeah.
Um, so I started in sports. I had a little radio show in Amite, Louisiana, in addition to the beat coverage that I used to do for high school sports. I moved on from there. Uh, got into some situations where some jobs folded, and I was kind of a free agent for a while, and fell into a crime reporter position in Hammond, Louisiana. So I did some of that, which that is very black and white and cut and dry. Um, but I got really really solid as a reporter
Yeah.
after doing that because there's really that's a real reporting job. There's no room for interpretation
Right.
or opinion given and things like that. So I've kind of had a wide range of jobs. I've been an editorialist, I've been a columnist, I've been a crime reporter. Basically, I've done anything to survive
Yeah, for sure.
and keep
Exactly.
things going. And now I'm a little more comfortable.
Yeah.
But I guess like I went to Southeastern for mass communications, and actually I studied a wide range there. I didn't want to specialize myself into print reporting because I kind of knew that, I mean, I love our newspapers, but I know, it's a tough gig right now.
Right.
I wanted to be able to dip into broadcasting or digital reporting if I needed to, and I mean, I've kind of come out on the other side so far.
Yeah.
So,
Well, no, that's great.
yeah.
And that's a hell of a background there. But I wanted to hear your thoughts, right? So you had a tweet last night of asking if anyone hosted a Pelican Space or a podcast soon, and this is what we do here at Pro Pels Talk and Boot Crew Media. So very interested to hear, right? So Zion Williamson, all the rumors. There's been some conflicting reports, right? There's been some saying that he's skipping out on rehab. There's Andrew Lopez yesterday saying that he looks fine. Looks like he's in kind of, getting towards game shape and things like that. And you wanted to talk about, I guess, the differences between, blogging and reporting and analyzing and commentary and things like that. So I'm going to let you kind of have the floor here and what your thoughts are on the whole Zion Williamson situation.
Yeah, I'm going to try to boil down 4 years of a mass comm degree in the smallest amount of time possible. Sure. But I kind of want to start off by saying, like, first of all, I didn't know that tweet would take off as much as it did. Gotten a lot of requests for show guests, and you jumped up there first, and happy to be here and happy to be on for anyone else. But it is. I want to start off by saying that it's not my intention to call anyone out or say that fan-led media is useless. Honestly, I think it's essential and it's needed, and it really enhances the game. But I think we have so many platforms for media content these days that it kind of gets a little confusing for fans to decide on, who is reporting, who's blogging, who's giving an opinion. And in a lot of cases, no one's really doing anything wrong per se, but maybe you have a mass amount of content and people are consuming more than ever before. And they're struggling on, can I trust this? Is this real? There's nothing wrong with giving an opinion, and there's nothing wrong with giving an opinion and being wrong either. Right. It's how to separate taking someone's opinion and determining, like, am I hearing someone give their thoughts, or is this like an actual insight that has a source attached to it, and things like that. To go back years ago, I think to understand the New Orleans market, New Orleans is the smallest major market in America. As far as broadcast goes with TV, the top 50 markets in America are considered major markets. New Orleans falls right there at number 50. So with that, there's not a lot of media to go around. The jobs are scarce. A lot of people do multiple jobs, wear multiple hats. A lot of the stations, there's usually sports guys. There's not like Pelicans guys per se. So I'll be honest, with a lot of the frustrations going on with the Pelicans and the lack of success, a lot of those guys just kind of decide, I'm not going to go all in on Pelicans coverage. I've got, Saints, LSU. I've got all these high schools to cover. And we know, like, high school football in Louisiana is a big, big deal. There's so few feet on the ground and so much ground to cover that I think sometimes with the top dogs, they kind of look around and they're like, well, covering the Pelicans is exhausting. I think
you going to Fletcher. That's a little. I mean, go ahead. Okay, you can go ahead.
Yeah, he literally said that last night, and I totally see where him and a lot of people are coming from. especially when you have a lot of ground to cover.
Right.
So I think a lot of professionals kind of like, if they start putting in the work, I'll start putting in the work. That has kind of left an opportunity over the years for a lot of fan blogs to come in and kind of fill the gap. And I think that's overall a good thing, because if you don't have any kind of coverage at all, fan interest wanes and things like that. But I think one thing that's kind of happened over time is now with there's like a recognized opportunity to fill a void. There's a lot of people that are in the area doing the same thing, and some people have media training background and they're trying to cut their teeth, and it's totally okay to do that. I did that. I mean, like, I broke into the New Orleans market a lot through Bourbon Street Shots, and
Right.
it is, if you're a reporter or a writer, it's best to write all the time and publish as much as you can with anybody. I mean, unless a publication is problematic or something like that, but in general, like, publish as much as you can with whoever you can, and grow your profile. And there's nothing wrong with people doing that. And I think that happens here a lot, and I think it happens here in a lot of good ways.
Jesse,
But
I don't, I don't want to
yeah,
cut you off here, but you had a comment here I wanted to ask you
yeah,
for. So you said for media members that are top dogs, right? If they
mhm,
put in the work, then I'll put in the work, is what you kind of said there.
yeah,
And that kind of strikes me as, well, if they're a bad franchise, then why would I cover them? And I completely understand, right, for
mhm,
clicks and for followings and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, don't you think that's kind of the problem with this franchise, right? There's not a
yeah,
lot of media members calling out this franchise. So they're just kind of, we can do whatever we want. We can still fail and no one's really going to call us out. Like, isn't that kind of a problem as well?
yeah. It is 100%. It is a problem as well. I and it's not that the professional members aren't doing it at all. In
Sure.
fact, they probably do the criticizing part more than,
Right.
like,
But the
I'm gonna,
criticizing part, like I get that, but like I feel like no one's really called out this friend. Like the whole Zion Williamson situation. I want to get your thoughts on that. I feel like it's been very tiptoey. We're walking on eggshells kind of
yeah,
thing. And finally, Jake had that tweet the other night. I think this has sparked this whole storm of, well, it's been the first time since Zion Williamson's been called out. And
yeah,
you know, is there are things going on in the background we don't really necessarily know. But I do think it's kind of warranted because, since David Griffin's come in, I feel there's been a lot of lies being told, and that's
mhm,
okay. I understand every franchise is going to lie.
yeah,
I completely understand that. There's just been such a cloud hanging over Zion Williamson and the way he's been covered, right? It all started with the bubble and why did he go
mhm.
home for those 9 days, and then the whole piano thing from Christian Clark, and then you're starting to see this kind of stuff this year. What are you seeing on how it's being covered, or how it's, I guess, yeah. What are you seeing? How is it being covered? Is it being covered fairly? Is it not? What are you seeing?
I think our local professional members are covering it fairly in the extent that they can easily get information on.
Right.
The team obviously is hiding a lot of information. Um, Therefore, our guys are so busy, they don't want to crack a lot of heads. If they're not talking, they're just, well, we're going to report very critical information because you're not talking.
Mm-hmm.
We've got a couple guys that get to specialize in the Pelicans. Obviously, we all go back to the Christian Clark piece.
Yep.
He is a beat writer for the Pelicans, with the Advocate or NOLA.com. And then you have Will Guillory, who's a beat guy for the Athletic, and those guys are fortunate enough to where the Pelicans are their job, and so they'll dive in a little deeper than other guys. But I mean, like, that's like two guys,
Right.
A lot of other cities, there's multiple
Right.
guys
That's what I
coming.
was going to ask you. Like, I'm a diehard Red Sox fan. They got 15 of those guys, right? And like,
Right.
we're talking Boston. I understand it's one of the biggest markets in the world, but you have two guys,
Yeah.
right? So is that maybe, like, you see what I'm saying? Like, there's only just two guys that are dedicated to it, and
Yeah.
So go ahead. I didn't mean to cut you off.
Yeah, that is kind of what presents an issue with this franchise in general. There's not enough guys to check them. So I think it does open the door for a lot of amateur guys to come in and check them. But let's be honest, like a lot of those guys don't have the credentials, they don't have the contacts. So therefore, you start getting into people want those hits of being recognized as like I'm one of the beat guys, but they don't have the contacts, or they haven't talked to the sources. So the content starts getting more like a speculation kind of thing. And if you want to speculate and present your opinion, that's fine, but make that very, very clear. It gets kind of problematic if you're insinuating that you know you've got this source locked away. He told me this and this and this, and a lot of times what it comes down to is maybe a lot of the same guys are referencing a report from one guy.
Right.
And then it kind of gets into like a clicks situation. um I mean, yeah, I mean, it's that. I guess that's kind of what I was talking about in terms of like trying to understand like who's out there um, on the streets, talking to the people in the organization, and wanting to report hard based facts. And then there's the kind of opinion led conversations, and both are needed, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, there's also a distinct difference between what is reporting, uh, analyzing the game, commentary on what's going on. And then there's even like a whole new facet of reporting that deals with just analytics and
Yes.
and just data. So like really it's yeah, when you talk about how there's only like two guys that are keeping the franchise in check, we now have uh like it seems like an NBA team needs guys that do commentary, needs guys that do reporting,
Mhm.
um, guys that write really well and entertaining that are fans that blog, and guys that can dive into the numbers. Um, and there's no one avenue for all of these things. There's guys that have had whole careers as columnists. And they're not reporters. They give their opinion, they watch games, and they give opinions based on hard facts that are out there. But um I think today we see a lot of those lanes bleed.
Mm-hmm.
And when you have situations like the Zion thing come up, it just kind of creates a perfect storm. um
Explain.
so Zion's once in a generation talent. And instead of going to like a New York or LA or something like that, where they have all these different media professionals that we're talking about, he comes to New Orleans and there's not hardly any.
Right.
Um, it creates kind of a situation where there's like it's like vultures are circling around the city,
Mm-hmm.
because you have guys. Well, you have all of our local guys that want Zion to stay and be the best he can ever be, and the legend of New Orleans and all of that. And then you have guys that are in the area but kind of don't care about the success of the team. They care about the success of their media path. You
Okay.
have that. You also have guys like the national guys that are waiting on the wings that want him to leave. They want him to go somewhere else. Um, and then it even goes even deeper. Some people want the franchise to relocate to Seattle because they think that would be a great story. So what people see is a small, vulnerable market, and a lot of vultures start circling around. And if you go back to everything we've seen with David Griffin and all the goofiness and mishaps and stuff like that, I think that's a product of all this too. It's it's like trying to put a genie back into the bottle. And
Mm-hmm.
I think it would be even wild if Zion didn't even have all of this injury struggle, but you add that to the mix, and the fact that he hasn't gotten on the court all season. Um, it's really, really hard to manage. And now as a fan, you've got all this content coming up. Some of it's rumors, some of it's reports, some of it's what people think's going to happen. And they kind of don't know how to digest it all.
Interesting you say that. So I wanted to hear your thoughts. I guess the $1,000,000 question, right, is which one's a rumor and which one's a fact? Because there are two different reports, right, Jesse? So Jake came out Sunday, saying that Zion's missing rehab assignments and that he's falling asleep in film session. Andrew Lopez, on the other hand, who employed by ESPN, has been covering this team for a couple of years now, forever, 4 or 5 years, stating that kind of the opposite, right? Kind of Zion's doing everything he can and getting in, he's not the 330 that the national media say he is, and that, just bad things keep happening. Unfortunate things keep happening to him. They're trying to work it out. What is a rumor and what isn't a rumor, right?
Yeah.
And how do you decipher that?
So here's the thing about this situation. Both can absolutely be true.
Okay.
Zion hasn't played this season. Like, when was media day? It went back to October.
Yeah, October.
Yeah. And we kind of heard that Zion might be overweight back in September as well. So, like, all of this could be true. We don't know at what points of the season. There's a rumor that Zion weighed 330 pounds. It's not confirmed, but we've heard that. It's possible. At the very, like, at media day, maybe that's how he weighed in. But is it true now? Probably not.
I wanted to go with media day. Do you think it was fair? And it was in my opinion, right? Once again, this is my opinion. I'm a blogger. I don't work for the team. In my opinion, I thought it was a bold-faced live what David Griffin, Zion Williamson did on that media day, right? Stating, the famous clip of Zion Williamson saying, "I'll be back for the first regular season game." David Griffin said he'll be back for the regular season or whatever. He retracted his words. Did you think that was fair to be said to this fan base? That Zion Williamson was promising that he would be back for opening day?
No, I don't think it was fair. What I think it was done for Zion. And I'll go ahead and say this because I think this is something going, after the Anthony Davis experience and now with Zion, I'm totally fatigued on this. There's just too much catering to superstars.
Completely agree.
Yeah, it's just out of hand. It's and I understand, like, you basically have a 19, 20-year-old kid and you want to protect them and you want to keep their family happy, and your job is to try to keep them there for a long time. And New Orleans kind of has, even before David Griffin, has a reputation for dealing with players' mess, keeping it under wraps, and keeping the player happy as best they can. That hasn't really translated to a lot of wins.
No, it hasn't. It is not, unfortunately.
I mean, I guess the positive example of that was kind of when Drew Holiday and Lauren went through the medical issue. It's a little easier to see that one. Right. But I guess they're trying to use the fact that we can keep you from the spotlight if you're dealing with something as kind of a leverage thing. But yeah, ultimately, are they having a lot of postseason success? No, not really. Players are bolting anyway.
Right. And in order to change this around, Jesse, right? And you work in the media, you work in media, right? How does it change, right? I understand it's eventually will be the players in the front office and the people on the court will make a change. But at the same time, how much can you hide Zion Williamson until the actual truth comes out? Because that's where I think that and it started with Christian Clark. It started with the whole piano thing. That was kind of the first thing you started hearing. And now you're starting to hear more and more and more about Zion Williamson. And some people don't know if it's true. Some people do know if it's true. There's only a handful of few people who know if the reports are true or not. And I guess I wanted to hear your thoughts on, was it fair for Zion to be called out on Sunday? Did you think it was actually fair for Jake to say that?
I feel like that was a Twitter exchange, and that was kind of said in the heat of the moment.
Mhm.
And if that's information that he was privy to and wanted to make a report and has sources behind it, that's fair game for sure.
Yeah.
Um, kind of one off in Twitter conversation, I don't know. But if we want to talk about the content of the tweets, how he has one thing and Andrew Lopez kind of has something else, like I said, both could actually be true. We've had a span of time now.
Right.
In October and November, Zion definitely could have been falling asleep, and I don't know.
Right.
Jake might know. I don't know, but I mean that definitely could be true. But it also could be true that he's had a wake up call and he's ramped up his workouts. Because I mean, if you're 20 years old and you're supposed to be the greatest in the world, and you're facing not even playing this season, and maybe you could do something about it. I know if it were me personally, thinking back to myself at 20 years old, I think I'd be freaked out.
I mean, yeah, but he's got 100 mil in the bank, and I don't know. Listen, I think we all agree on this, that we all miss watching him play. I just think
Yeah.
that everybody's kind of sick and tired of all the BS surrounding it. No one really knows what's true and what's not
Mhm.
true. Christian Clark comes out with the piano story. David Griffin says he doesn't play the piano. It never happened. Zion Williamson says it never happened. But, Christian Clark is one of the better ones to do it in this city. And so, like,
Mhm.
it's just a lot of I feel like no matter what, right, somebody's lying, and just continuously keeps happening and happening and happening and happening.
And look, I want to give Christian Clark big props for that piece,
Yeah, that was
because that's
ballsy.
not an easy thing to do.
Nope.
In fact, that can be a terrifying thing to do. I don't know if he was terrified or not. I don't want to speak for him on that level, but I might have been terrified to do that. Basically, you're really like putting yourself out on a limb there.
Yeah.
Put that out. And I think a lot of media members would hide a lot of BS because they're afraid of severing relationships with that franchise.
And
And
that's
there's
what I
only
think that Griffin
yeah,
has control of, right? So like Griffin
yeah,
can kind of control the whole press thing. And that's why I think that the whole, you haven't really seen anything until Christian Clark said that, right? And so I think the fans really appreciated it. I know I appreciated it. And it's just but
well, it's been missing from the city.
exactly. That was gonna be my next point. And that's what's been missing with this franchise. I'm a Saints fan. I don't really necessarily follow them a lot, but they have a lot of really good, reporters and tweeters and bloggers and all that stuff. The
Yeah.
Pelicans, on the other hand, are very scarce, as you were saying about it.
Mhm.
And I think that's what's been missing from this franchise is someone always putting that heat on the franchise, because David Griffin came in here, let's call a spade a spade. He took 2 years and he could have done whatever he wanted. The Christian Clark piece with the piano was like, okay, buddy, like this is enough. Okay. We're going to have a report. I have sources. I have credible sources, and who knows who it's coming from. Could be from Chris Finch's side, could be from Gentry's side, right? You're starting to hear a lot more reports of, well, I know Gentry and Griffin got into it, was it a month ago or two after the Kings Pelicans game. So I don't know. It's refreshing to hear as a fan, and I wanted to hear your point. And as always, thanks for joining our show. But there is a difference between blogging and working for the team and being a podcaster and stuff like that. And Jesse, I don't know if you have anything else to say about it, but it's not necessarily a fun time right now in this franchise's history. It's not. And there's a lot of conflicting reports, and it's hard to know what's true and what isn't true. And I think that's where everyone's really frustrated about.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I know one thing for myself, like the fortunate position that I'm in, like at work, I think with like there being a little open space for Pels coverage, like I can do that sometimes while
Yeah.
I'm at work. As a producer, I'm more of a behind the scenes person, but I've got contacts I can call. I can ask people questions and things like that every now and then. I'll put out a Pelicans report just to keep our viewers up to date. And those scripts might be used on the show or just for the web in general. I'll try to do enough to kind of keep an update going that's just plain simple facts for people people trying to pay attention. But then, I'm still with Bourbon Street Shots, so that's where I can go and um, write down all my thoughts on the season, and even get a little wild with it and make jokes. And
Right. Yeah, sure.
it's definitely fan led media, and that doesn't mean like that. We're devoid of facts. Like we still need to use facts to base whatever we say on over there. But I guess like those are two examples of how two different platforms are both beneficial. So like the overall content library that is the Pelicans fan base. I think like for fans trying to figure out what's going on, follow everyone and look
Yeah.
at all the content, digest it all, find out who you like. Um, Pay attention to what their jobs are, because I think like
It's your main, like, yeah, like you pay attention to what your job, what the
yeah,
jobs are for sure.
yeah, pay attention to what like the jobs are from the people that are putting out stuff. Like are they entertainers? Are they reporters? Are they like columnists? Basically, columnists and bloggers are kind of like the same. Like columnists is an old school newspaper thing. Bloggers are like that now.
Sure.
Like it's the digital version of that. And like I know, even though there's hadn't been a lot of Pelicans media members, like we've had a lot of great bloggers over the years.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I mean,
Guys,
there's some good like there's some great podcasts out there. I love, Schmidt. I love the Rattler
Yeah.
brothers. There's I think it's a Pels pod. There's Christian Clark's great. I like Will Guillory. I like I'm sure I'm forgetting people, right? But those guys I like the way they cover the team and things like that. I wish there was more of them, as you were saying. There's not enough, right? There's not enough, and
Yeah.
I completely agree with you on that.
To understand the difference between sports news, hard news, and this is where sports news can get a little hairy. Sports does have the leeway to have a little interpretation when you're given a report. Like you can say that Brandon Ingram has gotten 5 double doubles in the last 7 games, and this was prompted by this happened, this lineup change, and things
Right.
like that. Like you can kind of, as you're making a report, you can fill in the gap with like little analysis here and there, and you're able to do that because you're there in the scrum every night. Like you're witness to everything. You've done the work. Sports gives you a little leeway for that, but I think like when it comes from guys who probably have been sitting at home or like haven't watched the games a whole lot, and tie up a lot of speculation into maybe something that happened, like just weird stuff. Like
Sure.
and you see a lot. There's a lot of click stuff out there.
Yes, there is, and I think that's where media is really taking a turn for the worse. Is it's all about the clicks and whoever gets the story out first and stuff like that, and that's the stuff that I can't hate. The thing that I just probably my last point about the whole Pelican situation. Why, as a fan and as a season ticket holder, it's just frustrating to just be out of the loop. I feel like we're out of the loop, right? Like no one knows what's going on with Zion. And it's been like this for 3 years, and he's supposed to be the face of the franchise and the one that saves the franchise, and he's the main reason why. You saw, I think Ross brought up on our last podcast, but we threw an entire draft party for that guy, and the city went insane, and ticket sales skyrocketed, and everyone was so excited. And now it's year 3, and it's like this is rock bottom, and I think that's why everyone's so fed up and they want their answers. And I believe that they deserve answers. I truly believe that now. And you want to hide the bubble stuff, and I completely understand. That's fine, but this is year 3 now. I think everyone's tired of just the blatant lies, right? I think from Griffin and from the front office and from Zion Williamson's camp and his team and stuff like that are just sickening. And I think everyone's
and you know what? Like this isn't like totally just a media problem because of the things that you're bringing up, right? Like in some ways, the franchise has kind of created an atmosphere for people digesting bad info or perceived info. A lot of it's not even info, right? It's made up stuff. But that's going to happen if you have an organization that refuses to give answers, refuses to give updates. People naturally will fill in the gaps. It's
Right.
it's kind of like anything to do with politics or government, right? Like when
Right.
the answers aren't there, like they're going to start filling it in, and next thing you know, well, lizard people are taking over the world
Right.
and stuff like that. So
You bring up a great point. People are starting to fill in because people are, we're begging for Zion updates. Like, I think this
yeah,
should be like a weekly thing. This is your franchise guy, and we've talked about this before. It's just like any superstar that goes up, there's always these workout videos, and the team, promotes them in the right way. Zion has been just mute. No one's heard from him in a couple months.
yeah,
And listen, I understand that he's protected by the Players Association, that he can do that, but I think he would literally help this fan base and help himself out if he would just answer some questions of what is going on.
yeah,
Because
and that's probably the product of a 20-year-old who's just scared.
and
Um,
and if he has this great team camp and where's his agent, all this different kind of stuff, like, we want answers. That's the only thing we want. We all love the kid. We want him to play. He's incredible watch. His smile lights up a room. Like, we all like him. We all want to get behind him. But when you have reports of skipping rehabs and you have these whole reports of the piano thing and the disconnect between Griffin and Aaron Nelson and Zion, and why doesn't Zion trust our medical team, and the list goes on and on and on, and it's just at this point people are frustrated that they're not getting an answer. And and to your point that you bring up, and it's a good point, people are just starting to fill it in now. Like, well, what is going on? Now you're starting to hear more reports. And, I love Jake Madison. I think he does a great job, and I trust his stuff. And I love Andrew Lopez, and I trust his stuff. But now they're contradictory. It's just like both of them probably true, but who knows at this point? It's just, whew.
yeah, and how I said like how both of what they said could be true.
Yeah.
That's kind of what you get when you don't have these regular updates. Because like,
It's the problem. Yep.
what if what Jake is saying is true from October 31st, and what Lopez is saying is true from yesterday?
Right.
Like that's
Right.
that's a big gap in time.
Yeah, and I eventually think that goes into the PR side of the Pelicans. It's just this. I'm not trying to be disrespectful. This isn't Jose Alvarado, right? This is Zion Williamson, a worldwide known name, a figure, an image. The base when drafted was supposed to be the face of your franchise, and he's gone. And that's the one thing Anthony Davis never did. Listen, I had my problems with Anthony Davis, but I never questioned his work ethic. I never questioned if he was going to show up, right? And so, yeah, he had a bad injury. He was injury prone for 7 years, still is now, but I never questioned that. With Zion, I'm questioning, does he want to be here? Does he love the game? Is he doing everything to get back on the court? And I think that if he would just talk, it would subside all these questions. But once again, they have talked and they lied. So, you're in a bad situation. We got to sign off, but I wanted to hear any final thoughts you had, Jesse, and I always appreciated you coming on the show.
Yeah, looking back at this time, like you said, it's not a great time. I think it's kind of a dangerous time for fans if we're trying to decide on which content that we should digest and things like that. But I think we kind of gained some ground today in saying that, like, we're not out here to bash fan-led media or people that are trying to make a way for themselves, or, all alternative media. Know where you're getting stuff and know the point of those people's jobs or their hobbies, or whatever they are. And ultimately it's the franchise that's created a messy situation here. And or to be perfectly fair, maybe it's like half created, partly created by them. I think it's a daunting task to take on a Zion type player. And when you have so few resources professionally that check up on the franchise, you've got a situation like we have here, especially when that player goes dark.
Right.
So it's a big mess.
That's where, he hasn't said a word since media day, and I feel like everyone just wants. And listen, he's protected by it, so he doesn't have to say a single word. But it would help him and this franchise and this fan base if he would just talk and get questions answered. And like, people are asking me questions. Is the bone broken again? Is it fully healed? What does regression mean? What, there's still so many questions. And I feel terrible. And the last point I want to make, I feel terrible for Willie Green. First year coming in, rookie head coach, has never had to deal with this before. And he's in the spotlight. He's the one answering all the questions. And that's tough.
And since you brought up Willie Green, I kind of want to make the point that had we been more clear on what Zion's situation was, and I know they planned for him to come back. I really think that he was supposed to have come back, and he did suffer a real regression in the healing process. And that was unexpected. But, if they were a little more clear, it was mentioned a little bit at media day, but they really downplayed it. The nature of a foot injury, that could go on for a long time.
Right. At his side,
like my wife,
he's 285 when he's playing. That's not, that's hard.
Right. My wife, who's an RN, and she's not a podiatrist, but I mean, she has a medical background. On media day, she told me clearly, she was like, well, yeah, he could come back 7 months, but like there's a chance he could miss the season. And that's something they just didn't want to say.
Yeah. And I'd rather them just say he doesn't have a timetable yet instead of giving me a specific date. Sure. And that's where they messed up. And that's where, everyone's fed up with the whole Griffin pressers and things like that. So, but no,
if we could have had that mindset, we could have graded this team more like a rebuilding team aside from Zion this season and put the focus on how Willie Green's handling this team. And, I think you could have quelled a lot of anger that way.
Yeah. By the way, I wanted to shout out Willie Green has been fantastic. I have not one single problem with him only playing Sadaransky, but that's a conversation for another day. So Jesse, can't thank you enough. Once again, you can follow Jesse Brooks at Jesse C. Brooks on Twitter, digital content producer of Fox 8 NOLA, joining us today. Can't thank you enough. Hopefully we can do this again. And any final thoughts?
I just hang in there with the team. I know it sucks right now.
Just hang in there.
There will be a better day, I believe.
It can't get much worse. I'll tell you that much, Jesse. I'm hanging in there. Listen, I love this team. I love following them, and I love all the people you meet and the interactions and the different type of different type of. I guess a lot of people have different opinions, and that's okay. And it's okay to talk them out. A lot of people I think on Twitter have an opinion and they want to attack that person. It's like, well, just talk it out. Like, it's okay to have two different opinions. Yeah. That's fine. That's the whole thing I hate about Twitter, but I also love about it. So you meet people like this. So Jesse, once again, thanks for joining the show, brother. And if you ever need anything, or if you ever want to hop on again, just let me know.
Hey man, thank you for having me on.
Absolutely. Jesse Brooks, take care. And we're out.